On behalf of Breakthrough and Diversity Dialogue, I welcome everybody to today's wonderful conversation with our expert. But before we dive into the conversation for today's It's My Business Too, and what is the role of a bystander in that, uh, let's unfold what does we mean by bystander here in a workplace especially. But when we talk about bystander intervention, mostly we have seen that people talk about in a public place bystander intervention. यानी कि जो बगल में मुख दर्शक बन के खड़े रहते हैं वो भी कुछ कर सकते हैं, वो भी उसमें आके दखल दे सकते हैं. um, but on online it is slightly lesser than the public places what we have seen. There are two spaces we really find that most of the time we forget to talk about it. One is home and the other is workplace. We will unfold home some other day, but today with our expert we will try to have a different rich conversation with her. What does bystander intervention means in a workplace? So I'll just introduce today's guest or today's expert, Madhumita. Madhumita is the founder of Diversity Dialogues, and she brings immense experience in NGO sector, in social sector, and she is a trained counselor. Um, she has experience of working with multiple diversity groups, including corporate, World HRD Congress, and she has been recognized by these forums of Women Economic Forum, World HRD Congress. So welcome Madhumita, welcome to this conversation, and today's in this journey and this conversation, I am assuming we both will learn, and so as our viewers. Um, so would you like to say a few words about yourself, that the rich experience you bring? And I think that will set the tone for today's discussions on bystander intervention at workplace. Over to you,
Sure,
Madhumita.
Moshmi. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for having me here. As the founder of Diversity Dialogues, one of the things I think we've spoken about, and a few of us have co-authored a guide, on a particular subject, which is domestic violence and the workplaces. And while doing that research and also volunteering with a few organizations, I realized the role of a bystander. So that's been the exposure that I've had. I've also worked with multiple corporates, across consulting organizations, as well as then large conglomerates and multinational companies, and been on, for example, the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Committee as a member, also headed diversity and inclusion in some of these organizations. So that's the experience that I really come with. And I think the role of a bystander in a space like diversity and inclusion, when you're building a culture where everybody can sort of coexist, be themselves, is very, very important. So that's the context that I come with. And you so rightly said, because all of us, each one of us is on a journey of learning, right? So I'm hoping that through this conversation, I learn from you, Moshmi, and from anybody else who brings up points, questions, etc. So back to you.
Thank you, Madhumita. I think with that, you bring me to the first question, that how does a workplace and domestic violence, what does, I know, enabling the survivors of domestic violence in a workplace, does that mean? Why it is an important topic that the workplace should consider? So if you can throw light on that, Madhumita.
Sure, Moshmi. So, as I was doing some of this research, one of the studies that I came across was a KPMG study, which was done in partnership with Vodafone in 9 markets across the world. And that did show somewhere that as a result of domestic violence, the workplace impact on productivity is anywhere between 2 to $9.7 billion in a year, right? Which is huge amount of productivity loss for any company. So even if you were to only look at it from a business angle, I think, there is a significant reason why organizations, why corporates need to be able to talk about this. So that's one. The second piece is, of course, tied into this in terms of when a person's going through domestic violence at home, absenteeism, presentism, all of that has a huge amount of, there is huge ramification on work and work related things, but it's also the overall health, overall well-being of an employee, which I do think is important for a workplace to consider. Right, one can't sort of completely sort of not take responsibility for it at all. So that's the second reason I would think that, from one is the business productivity, but also to look at it more from a, an individual, an employee perspective. Companies today care about their employees, and if you truly care, you can't sort of negate this particular aspect and say that this does not matter, and this, also during COVID times in particular. Right now we are going through a pandemic, and which means that there is blurring between the house and the workplace, right? I mean, I'm taking this call, for example, from home today. So if I am facing domestic violence at home and if home is not safe, then the organization can take various steps to be able to intervene, to be able to sort of make a presence felt. I want to state a small example of how this has played out in my career when I have seen it. When I started my career, I was started as an HR professional in an organization. Along with me, there was this person who was working. And she was also a peer of mine. And then, suddenly she decided to get married and she came back from her marriage leave. And from that time onwards, for the next 9 months, I saw her lose a lot of weight, for example. I saw her suddenly having marks in her hands every day. Right. And I saw that there was impact on productivity, impact on work, impact on many other things. And as somebody who was also starting my career, I will be very honest to say that I did not see any signs of anything being wrong. In fact, I thought, ye matlab kya hai? Why is the productivity low? Why am I having to do her work? Because that also came into the picture, and all of that. And it was only after about, 10 months that the HR head of the company, who also happened to be somebody I was reporting into, he spoke to me and he said she's leaving the organization, she's getting a divorce and she's going back. And then when we discovered a little bit more, we realized that she was going through domestic violence. Right.
Mm.
So, and till date, I feel that little bit saying, I could have helped. I could have been a supportive colleague. I could have given her a listening ear. I maybe she had situations where she needed somebody to come and help her, but somewhere, I did not even see it to be able to do that. Right. So it's also important as a employee that you recognize it, signs of it, and you understand it, so that you can also be there to sort of help somebody who may be going through this. And I'm sharing my own example of not being able to do it because I didn't have the information or the knowledge. So that's why I think it is important at many levels that organizations sort of look at it, and start looking at domestic violence and workplaces and what impact it can have. And from the narrative that I said, every employee in an organization is a bystander as much as, a larger workplaces. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Madhumita. But that also, your experience took me back to my experience in the social sector. So, in one of the projects with garment factory workers, and there was one of the component of domestic violence in the training module. So, the factory management, because they had to accept the whole concept and then only they will allow us to implement it, we had a little difficult time to explain them that why it is important to talk about domestic violence, and how Also with domestic violence, one of the things we feel that all the time, mostly it is understood about domestic violence means it's only physical violence, or domestic violence means it is between partners or husband and wife, right? So if I'm an unmarried girl, I can also be a survivor of a domestic violence. I can have a difficult time from my father,
Yeah.
right? Or so for that matter, anybody, it can be my mother also, right? So between, even between two female, there can be a domestic violence case. So with the garment factory, they only understood when we explained them that a happy worker will be a productive worker, because to them, production was the thing they look forward. But it is, yes, Madhumita, it is so true that yes, when we talk about bystander, and especially on domestic violence, there are many ways by which the workplace can consider the same. But I think I don't know, but this is if I say it in Hindi, we say कि ये बहुत दूरगामी सपने हैं. It is a far-fetched dream that the workplace, that the employer will like, because they see it as your personal problem, ये आपका घर का problem है. How does it matters to the office? आपका रोज का घर का चिक चिक से हमारे काम को दिक्कत होता है, right? But yes, we need to be more empathetic. Um, so can I go a little deeper, and can I ask you to reflect, Madhumita, on from your experience, what are the different forms of discrimination or harassment women face at the workspace? If you can reflect on that, Madhumita.
Yeah, I'm so tempted, Moshmi, to sort of add to what you are also saying from to the earlier sort of question that you brought in, that workplaces can do a whole lot of things, and I'm going to sort of, if it's okay with you, address that before I jump into the next question. I think one is to be able to talk about it. Somewhere I have seen during this pandemic, a few organizations even having a simple slide which says these are the helplines, these are the spaces one can reach out to, before you start a meeting or at the end of it, or keeping it as a part of benefits policies in the company, I think is something that companies can really do. The second thing that I think can definitely happen is that most companies today have an employee assistance program or mental health counselor, somebody who provides. So checking if that person is also equipped somewhere to look at domestic violence cases, to sort of help with that, because then that person also becomes a support system, right? The other thing that can happen, and again I do want to call that out, is that people who are going through domestic violence, companies can perhaps look at transferring them sometimes. There is a provision of that, or if there are companies with guest houses, then to be able to provide that for a certain period till the person finds some other form of accommodation or some other form of it. Leave, in terms of during that time when a person specifically is trying to escape out of a situation of domestic violence, safe leave of a certain period to help plan life and the way forward. Also, we both, I think, talked about productivity. So during that time, can one be a little bit more kinder and empathetic and understanding from a performance cycle standpoint? But underlying all of this, I think, is the awareness piece, right? When you spoke about, do organizations talk about this, is this something that they're even touching upon? I think that becomes a very, very important aspect to look at. So I wanted to bring in some of these things, and then also what is the mechanism for protection of a bystander, right? Because sometimes the same violence, domestic violence doesn't always stay domestic. You have people stalking at the workplace also, it can come into the workplace as well. So then what can bystander do, and are they protected through a whistleblower policy and all of those things? I think some of those important things also need to be spoken about. I was very tempted to sort of answer this before we move
Sure,
on. I know
sure,
you asked
sure,
me
sure.
the next part. So I thought I will add in this. Is that okay?
Useful, very useful.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
hope the viewers also who was listening us on the live on the FB, it is useful. अगर कोई ऐसे दर्शक है जिन्होंने आज थोड़ी देर से ज्वाइन किए हैं, आज की जो ये पूरी चर्चा हो रही है मधुमिता के साथ में, वो वर्क प्लेस में बाई स्टैंडर्ड्स के रोल को लेके हो रही है, उसके ऊपर में हम मधुमिता के एक्सपीरियंसेस को सुन रहे हैं, पॉजिटिव जो किसी और ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ने, अदर कॉर्पोरेट्स हु ऑल हैव डन to make the workplace considering the domestic violence and how bystander can intervene in case of a harassment. So we are discussing on that. Yes, Madhumita, over to you with the second part of the question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, which is about essentially, you said forms of discrimination and harassment at the
Hmm.
workplace, right?
Hmm.
And I think that happens sometimes in very one form of it, which is, of course, legally also looked at in the countries, the prevention of sexual harassment or sexual harassment by itself. And I think that is also spoken about, and movements like the Me Too movement and all of that bring in a whole system around it. So definitely companies need to have a posh policy, and that's the short form for prevention of sexual harassment. But along with that, do they also then look at how does are they building a safe space where employees can sort of speak about it and report it out, and how does that work? Is there a general understanding of what sexual harassment is and what are the boundaries and what are not? Is the committee, the internal complaints committee, the internal committee equipped to handle these cases, and how are they being resolved in the company? I think there's a whole lot of things. So one form of it is definitely sexual harassment, Moshmi. But the other forms that sort of in a way lend to it, play out for it, is the way women are, there's a huge amount of maternity bias.
Hmm.
Right. I think during when I have seen that when people look at CVs of women between a certain age group, there is always these questions in the interviews of saying, when will the person get married? When are you planning to have a child? I think all of that, which means you're looking at women with a certain lens. Right, when you're taking them in. The second that I have seen happen a lot is around roles that women can do. There are lots of questions around, can women do a sales job? Can women travel? Can women do a factory job? And there are multiple factories where you have now women employed, and lots of them breaking those stereotypes. But still, there is this perception that nahi, some work women cannot do, which then automatically hampers career progression, hampers growth, and again adds to the way women are perceived. The third, and again a form of discrimination, which in a way results in gender pay parity issues, is this whole thing of thinking that women are the secondary provider for the family. Right.
Yes.
So the men are considered to be like, oh, they have to earn the salary, and this is additional pocket money. Right. So a lot of that also around the beauty bias. How are women looking? How are they coming across? A lot of comments on, the way they look, etc. So I think it often then all of these things take away from, it results in a form of discrimination because you're looking at women very differently. And then the same opportunities, the same things may not come specifically around times of maternity. I've heard this of a lot of people share with me that this whole thing about you are hired because you are a woman
Hmm.
into this role, right? So it automatically takes away from the actual performance and the actual capability that the woman brings in. Tied into it is, of course, things also like women being aggressive.
Hmm.
Often there is this whole thing of saying the women aggression is not viewed as assertiveness, right?
Yes.
It's viewed as women being emotional, women being aggressive, and the same thing if a man is. I think it is often viewed to be viewed to be that they are a good leader, and that they're a good boss. So a lot of stereotypes are associated, and I do want to say that it not only hampers women, but I have seen in my own experience, it also hampers the men in the organization. And the reason I'm calling that out is, suppose there is a man who is wanting to sort of spend time, looking after the child in the house. wanting to go into a sabbatical because of, say, that, or women or men having children, say, with a disability, and having to care give a lot more, single men who are having to manage children. I don't know if they get as much support either. So many a times when it does impact the women, and I'm bringing that point out because
Yeah.
many a times when we talk about these things, we think it only impacts the women, but it also impacts the men. Men expressing vulnerability, men being able to cry. I all of us universally experience emotions. So so that becomes then a taboo, and there is always an expectation of them having to manage stress in a certain way, and all of that. So some of these stereotypes, I think, don't hold good for anybody. It's not only about the women, but they are very much experienced by women at the workplace, um, and it leads to a lot more of careers suffering, gender pay parity going through, and that's a universal conversation now. So I've seen some of that sort of impact significantly.
Thank you, Madhumita. And the things which you are saying, and I went back to reflection in my career and my interviews, and I felt that this is almost in last 20 years, some 8 9 times I have changed jobs for different reasons. But and I have always been in the social sector and with a lots of traveling. And every time I have been asked that, are you married? And when I say that I'm married and I have a small child, then do you have a support system? What does your husband do? So immediately, I have seen they negotiate on the same role, uh, to a different to a different woman, or to a man they have given a higher salary, and to the woman they have given a lower salary, just because my husband is earning more. Or if I buy more dresses, oh, you have additional income of yours, so you buy so much of, you spend so much of money on yourself. So there are so many, like as you were saying, and my reflection on my own life was going on at different workplaces, not
Yeah.
at the current one, but in my previous places. This is so true. And yeah, and when we see these discriminations happening, what would you suggest, or can you illustrate some of the best practices you might have seen in organizations or in corporates that they have done, to do the workplaces, like bystander can take these, they can intervene, what kind of support system they have created in their workplace, so that it becomes easier for the bystanders to intervene.
Yeah. No, so a couple of things I think that organizations can do, and some of them are doing it, or a lot of them are doing it and taking small steps. Is one is, I think, building a culture of zero tolerance,
Yeah.
right? Which means that if there is a certain person who is reporting this out, even a comment, is it going to impact them and their career? Right,
Hmm.
because that's the fear that holds us back, whether you are the person who's at the receiving end of the comment, or whether you are a bystander. Because for bystanders, it's obviously it's sometimes saying, it's not my concern, and why will I take this liberty, right? But if you build a culture of zero tolerance, not only in paper, but also in not only in
Hmm.
letter, but also in spirit, and have systems, for example, having an anonymous helpline, where people can report some of these things out. That, I think, is one a very important step. And this is at an organization level, Moshmi, but it needs to then get implemented by leaders and managers, where leaders build that space in a team meeting where they themselves don't crack these jokes. And when somebody cracks it, they actively call it out. Because when a leader does it, it automatically somewhere gives permission to the rest of the team to be able to do it, right? And that fear of retaliation, and that fear of, will it come back and affect me, I think is important. The second is, the awareness piece by itself, which I think is very little. Somehow we've bought into a culture, or at least I have had exposure, and I'm brought up into a culture where even the depiction of movies, Often if you look at some of the earlier movies,
Yeah,
there's lots of comments just passed off, and
yeah.
women are treated a certain way, and there's a certain objectification. So, what is a sexist comment, and what does it mean,
Hmm.
right? And how does it play out, and why does it affect? Even that conversation and building that awareness, I think, is very, very important. That is the
Hmm.
second piece that I would think is very, very important in sort of addressing it. The third is some amount of training in terms of how can a bystander intervene.
Hmm.
Because does it mean if I don't like something you say, Moshmi, just does that mean I just say, Moshmi, I don't want to talk to you, or don't say this? Is that
Hmm.
how I should respond? Or how can I ask you this, saying, what makes you think so? What makes you think so that a woman who is being assertive is aggressive?
Hmm.
And can I have a conversation with you
Hmm.
on it, instead of, because there's also ways to call out where you're not making it a fight, right?
Hmm.
So that by itself, I think there is an opinion that if I call out a joke, then I am
Hmm.
immediately fighting,
Hmm.
right? Whereas it doesn't have to be a fight, it can be a conversation, it can be a understanding. There are ways and means to do that, and that understanding, I think, is also very limited. The fourth, and I will say this, is also to increase representation of different diverse identities in the company, right?
Correct.
Because in so many spaces that we go to, you're usually the only woman, you're usually the only person. And
Hmm.
I'm saying that because if that representation also changes, it actually adds more power, to different people, to different identities, to call out. It breaks some stereotypes. All of those things also end up happening. So I think that these are four ways in which I would think somewhere that how a bystander, how a culture in an organization can be built, where more people can speak up, where more people can voice dissent on some of these comments that sort of come up. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Madhumita, in my experience, I have also seen that, especially for sexual harassment at workplace policy, and what does sexual harassment means, and then who can complain, right? If I have that understanding
Yeah.
that okay, there is another person, it is happening with her, I have witnessed it, but she's not making a complaint, but I can still go and complain for two reasons. One reason that maybe I have understood, maybe she has recently joined or whatever, she's not that confident, that she's fearful about that, there will be some implication. Or the second thing I feel is that it also impacts me, because it is becoming a hostile environment for me. I don't want to hear such kind of things in our office space. One very funny example was that, very simple thing, but they do not think. So there were three men who were sitting at the lunch table, and they were discussing. They were having their lunch, and one of the person had bitter gourd in his tiffin in lunch, and they said that they were comparing wives to the karela,
Mm.
राइट, कि
Mm.
पत्नियां तो करेले जैसे होती हैं, ब्ला 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 ब्ला, से दे वर मेकिंग फन ऑफ इट. But that point of time, I have seen one of my colleague intervening there,
Mm.
and exactly what you said, she went and she asked exactly the same thing.
Mm. What?
Why did you make this statement? Do you
Mm.
understand the meaning of this statement?
Mm.
And one incident I remember where I had intervened. One of my person who reports to me showed me a joke and said that this was in another official WhatsApp group, right?
Mm.
So
Mm.
I said that you work with me, you go to field and you go through the program, you understand. Why did not you say anything that this is a sexist joke?
Mm.
Because okay, on confidence you are coming and you are telling me, see, this kind
Mm.
of joke is going on, but
Mm.
then you have to intervene. Now
Mm,
you have shown me, I will go and intervene is a long process. You are there in
mm,
that WhatsApp group.
mm,
You should
mm,
have immediately stopped that. You should not do such kind of sexist joke. He realized that he overlooked it, and he said that I promised that I will write a message. I said, still you can do it. Go back
mm,
and write a message in that group
mm,
that this is the official group, and we
mm.
people work towards, making violence against women lesser, and there you are making a sexist joke in an organization like that. I think, uh, to conclude that, I will say, Madhumita, if there is a will, there is a way. As an organization, if we are willing to take it up, there are different ways. You have already mentioned about a whistleblower policy. So if we have if the organization or the company has a whistleblower policy, that somehow makes people less threatened. They know that if I complain about something, even if it comes out as a according to me it was something, but in the investigation if it comes out, okay, no, it was not a problem, then also there won't be any effect on me. I think that is very that culture building piece is very important. Madhumita, thank you so much. So wonderful conversation. And you have also mentioned who are the different stakeholders who can play a role. Would you like to elaborate more on that? How can we, one, you said that by training we can bring an enabling environment, right? By bringing awareness and bringing more women, or making it, bring diversity into the organization, so that we understand each other. Some of the challenges, if you can highlight, Madhumita, what are some of the challenges? What you think that that stops people from active bystander at the workplace, and how can we positively motivate them
Yeah.
to take some action?
Yeah. So a couple of things that I have heard has been, one is very clearly it is not my problem. I think you also somewhere, Moshmi, talked about that, saying, it is not my problem, but I'll also pick on what you also said, which is to say that if this person is there and is building an unsafe environment, then today it is on somebody else, tomorrow it can be on me. Right, so that recognition by itself is a reason why it should be your problem also. But to begin with, that is, I think, one major thing. The second, I think, thing that I have heard is that, especially in spaces like domestic violence, that it is their personal business and it has nothing to do with the organization, and therefore I should not sort of invest or encourage or do anything from there. Right, so that becomes like the second thing that I have heard. The third is that it must be her fault.
Hmm. Hmm.
There many a times, when somebody makes a comment on, especially comments related to beauty of a woman and all of that, it's because she's wearing a certain kind of dress, it's because she's walking a certain kind of way. Domestic violence many a times also is about what has the woman done wrong, so that also then tends to play out quite a bit in all of these things. And the first one being more prominent, which is the one where it is not my problem, uh, and linked to that is, I don't want to risk things, you
Hmm.
know hold that fear that if I bring it up, specifically in when the whole thing is by a person in a position of authority, when
Hmm.
there's a leader who is making this comment and I suppose report into that manager, that leader, then I don't want to risk my own career, right? So I think, these are the different reasons, and I think there is an active role that the individual can play. But like, I'll go back to saying what I said, and it seems like a little bit like in the air, but it is true that till you build a culture where everybody can speak up, where if I were to tell you, I think you're biased here, I think this is a comment, I think this is a joke, I don't agree on it, that's received well.
Hmm.
I don't have to worry about whether you'll feel bad, and if you feel bad, then because of that my career is going to suffer. Still we do that, till we build that safe environment for bystanders and for people to speak up, it becomes difficult. The other is not to do it independently, not to do it alone. Sometimes we tend to say, okay, now I have to speak up. What about you find one or two more people who feel a certain sense of disagreement and you do it together? Because then you're adding majority to that singular voice, right? And I
Hmm.
think that is very, very important also. The third, like I said, and I'll go back to saying that in my view, HR does play a very important role. Because how are some of these grievances when they are coming up? How are they addressed? How is the response? What is happening? Are the responses? Because if the responses every time are like, you should understand this joke, or you should, ye joke hi to hai, what difference does it make? Then no matter what else you do, that is an active discouragement for the person to again report that back. But if you say, okay, now I'll take this joke seriously, I'll investigate, I will respond to it, the company will do a few things, then that is also changing the dynamic at that level. So I think in many ways it's important to build an ecosystem where bystanders are encouraged, where they understand their role, where there is a safe space, where there is action taken when such
Hmm.
statements are made. When one aims towards building that kind of culture, then ultimately things change. And it was a little strange for me. I mean, or it's a pure coincidence that you brought up this lunch table example, because I have had a similar example in one of the companies that I was working with, where there were three people having lunch, three men. Okay. And the lunch was taking time to come. And one of the men ended up making a statement like, I like my food hot as much as I like my women hot.
Oh.
Okay. And then what was wonderful was the other person who was eating, or who was just there, not eating, the food was yet to come, immediately responded and said, this is not acceptable. You
Hmm.
can't, this is a workplace environment and you can't make this kind of a statement, and this is not okay. And he went on to do it in a very nice way, but went on to sort of give um, a little bit of a explanation to this person, and that person was surprised and all of that. And the third person who was in the picture tried telling this person that it's a joke, uh, you
Okay.
know
Normalizing that.
normalizing it. And he said, no, no, I don't think it's a joke. Okay. And later on, what happened was this person who was calling this out
Hmm.
informed me. I had a certain role in the organization. I was a consultant, whatever. And then it went up to the authorities. They took action. They took action of doing a few things with that individual, whether it was coaching, whether it was issuing a warning, whatever it was. Right. And that's how you change the culture. And the reason I'm
Yes.
using this example, I don't think our two examples are very different from each other, is one is a woman walking by and having to spot this and ask. But even if you're a man and you're
Hmm.
sitting in the lunch table and this comment is being passed, instead of, clapping and saying wow and saying it's just a joke and all of that, you can call it out saying this is not okay.
Yeah.
Right. And this person who ultimately called it out was quite appreciated, was quite valued by the organization for what he had done, which is also setting up this example of saying, that this is encouraged, this is appreciated. It is not something that one looks at with a certain lens. Right.
Absolutely. And you brought also a very important point that, if I am feeling fearful of doing it alone, how can two, three people come together? And again, that relates to my experience to the factory. There we used to tell these women, अगर आपको अकेले को डर लगता है कंप्लेन करने के लिए, because they were mostly at the last level of the workers who are the or the factory floor. सो आप इसको ग्रुप में भी जाके बोल सकते हो, साथ में जाके बोल सकते हो. And during our project period, we have seen that the best part what we have seen in that project was in the initial time when we started the project. So in our research, in our baseline data, it came that the HROD and everybody, they said that, especially these people, they said that there is no harassment and no discrimination. By the time it was the mid project or at the mid project that time the data said that, even the HROD people have started saying ki, yes, there is discrimination. So we were very happy that, through our training programs, which you also mentioned, that we were able to give that lens to the people by which they can see what they are thinking is normal, is not normal, it is up, this is
Yeah.
discrimination, or this is harassment. That is very, very important. And with that, I think we are coming towards the end and towards the last questions, and which is related to the current scenario, Madhumita, is that what has happened during this COVID time. The nature of workplace has changed, and now how does it how does it plays now? Now, how do you see the bystander intervention when my home has become my workplace? And so if you can throw light on that.
Yeah. No, happy to, Moshmi. And like I said, I think I would start with saying that one mistake that you could make as a bystander or as an employee is to assume that everybody who is working from home is automatically safe. Sometimes we close meetings with saying stay safe at home, right? And that by itself, I think, is I want to sort of address that myth, because for some of us who work in the space, I'm sure you are aware that the number of cases of something like domestic violence have exponentially risen. And I do want to say that we talk in the context of domestic violence for women, which is a little bit more recorded, but there is elder abuse that happens. There is a lot of people from the LGBT community who go through their own challenges at from home. And specifically these environments can be stressful. So understanding that you can't immediately equate the two, I think, is the first step, because that's when you will be aware that you may need to be a bystander. Otherwise, you are going to assume that you have no role to play. So that's one. The second piece, which is tied in to the whole piece, is then what are you doing? Like I said, there are companies which are talking about this. There are companies which are at least having a list of information, helplines, spaces that people can reach out to, having interventions around mental health during this time. Because in all of them, somewhere, then you're giving the employee a chance to open up, come out, speak about it, and all of that. Also, managers having regular connect, leaders having regular connect with employees to understand how are they doing, what's happening in their personal spaces, what's happening in their lives, I think becomes very, very important. The third is that in an online conversation, if you find yourself having to encounter some sexist comment or some joke or something that does not agree with you, I do think that it's important that you figure out, and maybe the team has mechanisms which are discussed and outlined of how can somebody intervene. Also, if there are because sometimes harassment can happen, or many a times it happens online. So how does one call that out? And does the company have a policy around it? Does that mean that I then immediately escalate it? Does that mean I on chat respond to it? Does that mean I unmute and respond to it? Does that mean that the whole thing happens after the conversation? How do I do it? Right, that
Right.
I think is important, that everybody sort of outlines a protocol. Because when you're outlining a protocol, and that's something I think managers, leaders, organizations need to realize, that if I'm going to outline a protocol, then
Hmm.
that automatically means that I recognize this, I'm aware of this, and therefore you also bring down instances of that happening within the team,
Hmm.
right? In some sense, I think that is very important. And tied into it, how will discrimination or harassment get addressed online?
Hmm.
Right? How does an IC operate online, for
Hmm.
example? If a case comes up, how do I investigate online? How do I operate online? How can those things happen? How can I ensure that the person who, if there is a perpetrator or whoever is in a safe space, or a survivor or whoever is in a safe space to talk about it. So some of those protocols, some of those measures, I think need to be very, very clearly sort of specified, defined, so that nobody is left guessing. Because when you're left guessing, if I as an employee am left guessing, then I don't know what to do. I don't know as a bystander what I should do. I don't know as an, if I am going to face the same situation tomorrow, what do I do? So some of these things I think teams, organizations, managers need to come together and define. So those would be like some of the things that I would say during COVID times, during this time when most people are working from home, it becomes important to consider.
Yeah, Madhumita, and during this COVID time, with what you said, and with current organization, our online meetings were going on, and there are people, because this is a social organization, so there are people who are posted in the block level or at the Gram Panchayat level. The COVID time brought good thing that we could do online meetings with them, but then in one of our meeting we could find out that there was one boy who, it's a mixed group of boys and girls with whom we work, our team members, we have both male and female. So one of the person is a very young, like just graduated and first job, and so I don't know with what thought he did that. He just came for the meeting in a banyan, right? And his video was on. And so one of my colleague immediately told him that, can you go and put a shirt and come, right? But that we took it to our HR, that immediately we have to do again one round of training of the team, that how in online spaces sexual harassment can happen. Immediately we took it up to that in the policy there has to be few lines needs to be added, and it needs to be recirculated to the team. I felt those are the some of the positive things I have seen in Breakthrough, doing it very proactively and immediately. And then those people also understood that, okay, what does it mean that online, what online doesn't mean that I can do whatever I want to do or whatever way I want to do it. So with that, Madhumita, I think I can chat with you 2 more hours, because there is so much to learn from you. But I'll just conclude this conversation, and definitely would like to have a conversation with you someday, that how does this wide standard intervention should be talked about when we are bringing up our children, like at home. This is another space where when we do not talk about at home,
Yeah.
that how can I intervene as a bystander or somebody else. So wonderful to have you, Madhumita, and also the wonderful learnings, the positive things what you have shared. Many things as an organization, we feel that those who are joined us on the Facebook Live must have taken a note of it and will go back to their companies or their organizations and definitely discuss about it. And we'll have you again in this chat. So थैंक यू वंस अगेन, एंड सभी दर्शकों को भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद जो हमारे साथ में बने रहे इस चर्चा में। और उम्मीद करती हूँ अगर कोई सवाल है आप बाद में भी पूछ सकते हैं, आप ब्रेक थ्रू के वेबसाइट में भी जाके वहाँ पे भी लिख सकते हैं। वी विल रीच आउट टू मधुमिता इफ यू डू नॉट हैव आंसर टू इट, and that is how we will keep this learning journey together on. As we move on, we learn. So thank you so much, Madhumita, and thank you the team who was coordinating it. And sabhi darshako ko namaste and good night.
Thank you. Thank you, Moshmi. I think it was fantastic. And some of the experiences that you shared were eye opening for me. So I thoroughly enjoyed learning. And you're so right about how these things happen at home, and then how does one bring it up with children, not only in the context of many other things, but I think also bullying that they may be undergoing and all of those kind of things. So looking forward to a lot more conversations with you with Breakthrough. And thank you so much for having me here.